All right. Hey, I'm in San Francisco. I don't know if I'll share the other part of the footage. I looked around for a long time and was showing you guys the bridge and for a spot to read the book, but I think I'll just start it here, and you'll miss out on 9 minutes of personality and looking for a place to read. Now I'm just gonna read this here. Let's see if you get the bridge. Good. There. That was easy. Okay, my name is Dr. Cheryl Meyer. We're reading Evelyn Underhill's book on mysticism, the nature and study of spiritual consciousness. And I have this hour, and I'm here in town because my sister got a free hotel in San Francisco for a conference. And so I wanted to come with her and see her. I haven't seen her in a few years. So I wanted to share this time with you guys so you guys could, we could read the book. We could have another hour in our book on mysticism. I wanted to take some time out to do that for you, for us. Hopefully the people aren't in view. Welcome, enjoy, subscribe, comment, share. Let's just get into the book. It's from 1911, 1910, so it's free copyright. So it is the mystics too who have perfected that method of intuition, that knowledge by union, the existence of which philosophy has been driven to acknowledge. But where the metaphysician obtains, at best, a sidelong glance at that being, unchanging yet elusive, whom he has so often defined, but never discovered, the artist has a brief and dazzling vision. The artist has a brief and dazzling vision of the beauty which is truth. They gaze with confidence into the very eye of the beloved, the mystic does, Let me get further away from this road, but... All right. The mystics again declare themselves to know the divinely real, free, and active world of becoming, which the vitalistic philosophy expounds to us. They are, by their very constitution, acutely conscious of the divine immanence and its unresting travail. It is in them, and they are in it. Or, as they put it, in their blunt theological way, the Spirit of God is within you. See, that's like the blunt theological way to say this beautiful mystical truth, Like I was saying, the Native Americans say, Mataki Washin, we're all in the mind womb of God, But this blunt theological way, the Spirit of God is within you. They are not satisfied with this statement and this knowledge, but they, the mystics, I think, are not satisfied with this statement and this knowledge. And here it is that they part company with the vitalist. It is, they think, but half a truth. To know reality in this way, to know it in its dynamic aspect, enter into the great life of the all. This is indeed, in the last resort, to know it supremely from the point of view of man, to liberate from selfhood the human consciousness, but it is not to know it from the point of view of God. There are planes of being beyond this, countries dark to the intellect, deeps in which only the very greatest contemplatives have looked. These coming forth have declared with Ruysbroek, that God, quote, God according to the persons is eternal work, but according to the essence and its perpetual stillness, he is eternal rest. Oh, okay, so he's saying he's eternal work and eternal rest. All right, hold on. I'll explain that a little bit when we walk, because I'm going to walk a little bit. You can see the view while I do that. I keep dropping that. Eternal work, because it's like, okay, so if you think of the oneness, that the mystic enters into the oneness, the absolute infinite beingness, that's God. And in that oneness, right, you get a view of that. You get a view of you get a perspective of that. You get a knowing of that. And so when you go back into the duality of our life, of how we experience things, then spiritual truths have to be explained in a paradox kind of way. And I only learned this recently, so it's helped me so much. That's why I'm sharing it with you. But I'm sure Evelyn Underhill will totally expound on it. It's both and. It's like it's like if you're experiencing hot and cold at the same time or something. It's like someone can be chosen but also use their free will. You can be this completed work, like Jesus, in a way, like look at this mystically, sitting at the right hand of God, right? And then in another way, if Einstein is correct that there is no such thing as linear time, then he's being crucified right now and born right now. And, you know, it's both and. It's you'll get it as we go along. That I'll just plant the seed now. All right, so let's just keep going with this view and let it be what it is. I just still have to be aware of my surroundings a bit. I'm in the middle of the city, so there's lots of... Anyway. Okay. The mystics again, okay, so the full spiritual consciousness of the true mystic is developed not in one, but in two apparently opposite, but really complementary directions. And she has something, I don't know if this is Latin or French. Io vidi ambo le corte del ciel manifeste. Or manifest. I'll show you it in case you read Latin, or it's right here. On the one hand, he is intensely aware of and knows himself to be at one with that active world of becoming, that deep and primal life of the all, from which his own from which his own life takes its rise. Hence, though he has broken forever with the bondage of the senses, he perceives in every manifestation of life a sacramental meaning, a loveliness, a wonder, a heightened significance, which is hidden from other men. He may with Saint Francis call the sun and the moon, water and fire his brothers and his sisters, like Saint Francis does, you know. Or receive with Blake, you know, the poet, the message of the trees. Because of his cultivation of disinterested love, because his outlook is not conditioned by the exclusive action of the will to live, he has attained the power of communion with the living reality of the universe, and in this respect can truly say that he finds, quote, God in all, and all in God. Thus the skilled spiritual vision of Lady Julian of Norwich, right? Transcending the limitations of human perception, entering into harmony with a larger world whose rhythms cannot be received by common man. She saw, you know, the all-enfolding divine life, the mesh of reality. Quote, for as the body is clad in the cloth, she said, and the flesh in the skin, and the bones in the flesh, and the heart in the whole, so are we, soul and body, clad in the goodness of God and enclosed, yea, and more homely. For all these may waste and wear away, but the goodness of God is ever whole. Many mystical poets and pantheistic mystics never pass beyond this degree of lucidity. And I think that's actually where we read last time, but it's good. It's good to hear it again, right? It really is. On the other hand, the full mystic consciousness also attains to what is. I think it's really characteristic quality. It develops the power of apprehending the absolute pure being. All right, let me try to get the bridge. Okay, it develops the power of apprehending the absolute pure being, the utterly transcendent, or, as its possessor would say, can rise to passive union with God. This all-round expansion of consciousness, with its dual power of knowing by communion, temporal and eternal, immanent and transcendent aspects of reality, the life of the all, vivid, flowing, and changing, the changeless, conditionless life of the one, is the peculiar mark of the ultimo sigillo of the great mystic, and must never be forgotten in studying his life and work. You see, so we're trying to explain the inexplainable and put words to it. And so I think what she's saying too is just important, always to keep that in mind. That's what we're doing. We're explaining to a world that can't even be put in words, actually, you know. It's so pretty here today. I hope it's conveying the beauty. As the ordinary man is the meeting place between two stages of reality, the sense world and the world of the spiritual life, so the mystic, standing head and shoulders above ordinary men, is again the meeting place between two orders. Or, if you like better, he or she, you know, this is a she writing, but he or she, this is back in 1910, they just use he, that person, the human being, is able to perceive and react to reality under two modes. On the one hand, she knows and rests in the eternal world of pure being, the sea Pacific. Look at that. Of the Godhead. That's amazing, because we're looking at the Pacific Ocean right now. Isn't that wild? Like, she wrote this in England in 1910, and here I am sitting at the ocean, and I didn't know that part was going to be in this. Like, I'm gonna see if I can put this in the bushes. That'll work best. Without losing my phone in the bushes, though. You can keep getting in this mindset of trying to get it better, and then you're just stuck in that mindset, and I don't want to be stuck in that mindset, so it just is what it is. So let's just keep reading. But there's the sea Pacific. So let me read that sentence again. On the one hand, he knows and rests in the eternal world of pure being, the sea Pacific of the Godhead, indubitably present to him or her in her ecstasies, attained by her in the union of love. On the other hand, he knows and works in that stormy sea, the vital world of becoming, which is the expression of its will. Quote, illuminated men, end quote, says Ruysbrook, are caught up above the reason into naked vision. There, the divine unity dwells and calls them. Hence, their bare vision, cleansed and free, penetrates the activity of all created things and pursues it to search it out, even to its height. So there the divine unity dwells and calls them. Hence their bare vision, cleansed and free, penetrates the activity of all created things and pursues it to search it out, even to its height, right? This is from a book called Samuel by Rusbrook. Though philosophy has striven since thought began, and striven in vain to resolve the paradox of being and becoming, of eternity and time, she has failed strangely enough to perceive that a certain type of personality has substituted experience for her guesses at truth. You have to have experience. If someone keeps telling you what a banana tastes like, it's going to be different when you taste a banana. And I have a feeling, this is my intuition, that in the near future, lots more people are going to be having experiences of the divine, and of this. I don't know how, but it just maybe because of the internet and everything, we're more connected technologically, and so these consciousness is going to be more experienced. And I know people experience levels of consciousness through medicines and plants and stuff like that, but I'm not saying I recommend that. I'm just saying because you can meditate and see these things without anything. Anyway, though philosophy has striven since thought began, and striven in vain to resolve the paradox of being and becoming, of eternity and time, she has failed strangely enough to perceive that a certain type of personality has substituted experience for her guesses at truth, and achieved its solution not by dubious processes of thought, but by direct perception. To the great mystic, the, quote, problem of the absolute presents itself in terms of life, not in terms of a dialectic, some discussion we have in our brain, and, read more books about it. He solves it in terms of life by a change or growth of consciousness, which, thanks to his peculiar genius, enables him to apprehend that twofold vision of reality which eludes the perceptive powers of other men. It is extraordinary that this fact of experience, a central fact for the understanding of the contemplative type, has hitherto received no attention from writers upon mysticism. As we proceed with our inquiry, its importance is far-reaching. Applications in the domains of psychology, of theology, of action will become more and more evident. It provides the reason why the mystics could never accept the diagram of the vitalist as a complete statement of the nature of reality. Whatever be the limits of your knowledge, we know, they would say, that the world has another aspect than this, the aspect which is present to the mind of God. Tranquility according to his essence, activity according to his nature, perfect stillness, perfect fecundity, says Rusbrook. Again, this is the twofold character of the absolute. That which to us is action, to him, they declare, is rest. His very peace and stillness coming from the brimming fullness of his infinite life. That which to us is many, to that transcendent knower is one. Our world of becoming rests on the bosom of that pure being which has ever been the final object of man's quest. The river in which we cannot bathe twice is the stormy flood of life flowing toward that divine sea. How glorious, says the voice of the Eternal to St. Catherine of Siena. How glorious, says the voice of the Eternal to St. Catherine of Siena, is that soul which has indeed been able to pass from the stormy ocean to me, with a capital M, the sea Pacific, and in that sea, which is myself, to fill the pitcher of her heart. I was going to do this in my room. My room doesn't have a view of the ocean, but I felt my intuition barely just nudging me, like, just keep walking and go until you see the ocean, all right? And I had no idea why. I haven't read ahead. I don't remember if I've ever read this. I started reading the book, and then I was like, oh, I've got to read it with you guys, right? I want to share. I always want to share my toys, share my knowledge, share this amazing experience. All right. So he's saying, right? She's saying, Evelyn Underhill saying, the final object of man's quest, the quote, river in which we cannot bathe twice, is the stormy flood of life flowing towards that divine sea. How glorious, says the voice of the eternal to St. Catherine of Siena, is that soul which has indeed been able to pass from the stormy ocean to me, the sea Pacific, and in that sea, which is myself, to fill the pitcher of her heart. Look, I'm going to let you see this. It's so amazing. I can't see what you're seeing because there's a glare. There. Anyway. The evolution of the mystic consciousness then brings its possessors to this transcendent point of view. Their secret is this unity in diversity, this stillness in strife. Here they are in harmony with Heraclitus rather than with his new interpreters. That most mystical of philosophers discerned a hidden unity beneath the battle, transcending all created opposites. And in the true mystical spirit taught his disciples that, quote, having hearkened not unto me, but unto the Logos with a capital L, right? It is wise to confess that all things are one. This is from Heraclitus. I wish she had put what year that was written in. I forgot what year he's from. This is the secret at which the idealist arid concept of pure being has tried so timidly to hint, to which the vitalist's more intimate, more actual concept of becoming has tried so unnecessarily to destroy. So the vitalists try to destroy this because you can't make sense of it with your logical mind. You can't expect your brain is this puny thing. You know, I heard a mystic describe it like that. And you are so much more. You're a soul consciousness. And you have a brain so you can use it. But it's just like, I was playing my guitar this morning. I can use my guitar to play guitar songs. I can't use the guitar for everything, right? You have a different way of knowing, right? So you have more ways of knowing. All right. So the vitalist tries to wreck that. Pure being has tried so timidly to hint, in which the vitalist, more intimate, more actual concept becoming has tried so unnecessarily to destroy. We shall see the glorious raiment in which the Christian mystics deck it when we come to consider their theological map of the quest. If it is to be objected, and this objection has been made by advocates of each school of thought, that the existence of the idealists and mystics, quote, absolute, is... Oh, they were doing that for the baby that was walking by here, I think. I don't know. Who knows? That the existence of the idealists and mystics absolute is utterly inconsistent with the deeply alive, striving spiritual life which the vitalists identify with reality. I reply that both these concepts at bottom are but symbols of realities which the human mind can never reach, and that the idea of stillness, unity, and peace has ever been humanity's best translation of its final intuitive perception of God. In the midst of silence, a hidden word was spoken to me. This is a quote. In the midst of silence, a hidden word was spoken to me. Where is this silence, and where is the place in which the word is spoken? It is in the purest that the soul can produce, in her noblest part, in the ground, even the being of the soul. So Eckhart, and here, that's Meister Eckhart says, if you know the German mystic from the 1300s, I think, or he said that, and I'll say it again. It's so good. In the midst of silence, a hidden word was spoken to me. And then she says, where is the silence, and where is the place in which the word is spoken? It is the purest that the soul can produce in her noblest parts, in the ground, even the being of the soul. I guess Eckhart said all of that. So Eckhart, and here does but subscribed to a universal tradition, The mystics have always insisted that, quote, be still, and know is the condition, end quote, is the condition of man's purest and most direct apprehension of reality, that somehow quiet is the truest and deepest activity. And Christianity, when she formulated her philosophy, made haste to adopt and express this paradox. Quid is ergo deus mus, said St. Augustine. Let's see if she says this. It's in the Confessions. What art thou then, my God? There it is. Thank you for the translation. What art thou then, my God? And the quote goes on here. I'm reading it, the footnotes at the bottom. Highest, best, most potent, dynamic, most omnipotent, i.e., she's putting in brackets, transcendent, most merciful, most just, most deeply hid, and yet most near, fairest, yet strongest, steadfast, yet unseizable, unchangeable, yet changing all things, never new, yet never old, ever busy, yet ever at rest, gathering, yet needing not, bearing, filling, guarding, creating, nourishing, and perfecting, seeking, though thou hast no wants. What can I say, my God, in ellipsis, my God, my life, my holy joy? Oh, what can any say who speaks of thee? Compare the striking similarity, the Sufi definition of the nature of God. Oh, I wonder if she's going to quote Rumi. I love him. As given in Palmer's Oriental Mysticism. And here's a quote, page 22 of that. First and last, end and limit of all things, incomparable and unchangeable, always near, yet always far. I think that was Timaeus. All right, so that was from Augustine. It says, what art thou then, my God? I'm going to put this down because my hand is falling asleep. All right. Says St. Augustine, and gave an answer in which the vision of the mystic, the genius of the philosopher, combined to hint something at least of the flaming heart of reality, the paradox of the intimacy and majesty of that all-embracing, all-transcending one. Summe optimi potent... Okay, this is what I just read to you in English, so I'm not going to read that again. I'm so glad she has it right here. It's all in Latin. Okay, that's all what I just read. Bearing, filling, guarding, creating, nourishing, and perfecting, seeking though thou hast no wants. What can I say, my God, my life, my holy joy? Oh, what can any say who speaks of thee? It has been said that whatever we may do, our hunger for the absolute will never cease. I don't know who said that, but the hunger, that innate craving for an intuition of a final unity, a changeless good, will go on however heartily we may feed on those fashionable systems which offer us a pluralistic or empirical universe. If now we admit in all living creatures, as vitalists must do, an instinct of self-preservation, a free directive force which may be trusted and which makes for life, it is just to deny such an instinct to the human soul. The entelechy, E-N-T-E-L-E-C-H-Y, of the vitalists, the hidden steersman, drives the phenomenal world on and up. C.S. Lewis had a photographic memory, and he could quote from all the books in his library, but he had in the last battle, it says further up and further in. Further up and further in as they're entering into the heavenly realms. What about the sure instinct embedded in the race, breaking out again and again, which drives the spirit on and up, spurs it eternally, towards an end which it feels to be definite yet cannot define. The word definite looks like, but it's of the infinite, de infinite, but you can't define. It's, you can't define God. You can't even say he exists because God is. To exist is to exist in this physical world only, or something like that. But anyway, shall we distrust this instinct for the absolute as living and ineradicable as any other of our powers, merely because the new philosophy finds it difficult to accommodate and to describe? I don't know. We must, says Plato in the Timaeus, I just hopefully I can, I don't know how to, and hopefully they're in shadow enough so that you're not seeing who the people are. We must, says Plato in the Timaeus, make a distinction of the two great forms of being and ask, what is that which is and has no becoming, and what is that which is always becoming and never is? Go Plato. Without necessarily subscribing to the Platonic answer to this question, I think we may at any rate acknowledge that the question itself is sound and worth asking, that it expresses a perennial demand of human nature, and that the analogy of man's other instincts and cravings assures us that these, his fundamental demands, always indicate the existence of a supply. And C.S. Lewis does talk about this in, I don't remember Mere Christianity or The Problem of Pain, but he says, I think Mere Christianity says, that we have a craving for food and a hunger, and then there is such thing as food to feed us, and that we get thirsty, there is such thing to quench our thirst. And I said this in one of the last videos. I think he got that from her. I'm sure it's in other places too. I mean, he would read Plato as well. He was a professor at Cambridge and teacher at Oxford. Anyway, that great defect of vitalism. Okay, so I'll just reiterate that, what you just said. It expresses a perennial demand of human nature, and that the analogy of man's other instincts and cravings assures us that these, his fundamental demands, always indicate the existence of a supply, right? It's in Aquinas, and C.S. Lewis definitely read Aquinas. It says, a natural craving, says Aquinas, this is in the footnotes, but I'll read it, cannot be in vain. And the newest philosophy is creeping back to us this medieval point of view. Compare Summa contra Gentiles. She wrote that. I don't know that. Aquinas just said a craving, said Aquinas, cannot be in vain, end quote. And so, it doesn't mean you have to fulfill it in whatever way. It's like, just because I'm thirsty doesn't mean I go drink a whole thing of vodka or something right now. It's just like you can use discipline and it doesn't mean like I have to go try every DRUG. I don't want to get flagged. I don't know if we can say that. Whatever. I'm sure we can. At once, just to have some experience of the mystical. I can enter into this steadily and open up my mind and have an expansive understanding and look into all of this in a safe way, without just staying rigid and closed off, But anyway, the great defect of vitalism considered as a system is that it only professes to answer half of it, the half which the absolute idealism disdains to answer at all. We have seen that the mystical experience, the fullest all-round experience in regards to the transcendental world, which is attainable by humanity, declares to us that there are two aspects, two planes of discoverable reality. We have seen also that hints of these two planes, often clear statements concerning them, abound in the mystical literature of the personal first-hand type. Pure being, says Botru, Boutrous, in the course of his exposition of Boheme, has two characteristic manifestations. It shows itself to us as power by means of strife, or by strife of the struggle and opposition of its own qualities. But it shows itself to us as reality in harmonizing and reconciling within itself these discordant opposites. Okay, hold on. Has two characteristic manifestations. It shows itself to us. It shows itself to us as power by means of strife, of the struggle and opposition of its own qualities. But it shows itself to us as reality in harmonizing and reconciling within itself these discordant opposites. So as power and as reality. So there's strife, but also there's harmony, just like we could see in the ocean. It looks all calm here in the bay. I guess that's why it's called San Francisco Bay. Okay. Its manifestation as power then is for us in the dynamic world of becoming, amidst the thud and surge of that life which is compounded of paradox, of good and evil, of joy and sorrow, life and death. Here, Boheme declares that the absolute God is voluntarily self-revealing, but each revelation has its condition, the appearance of its opposite. That's what I was talking about earlier. There's a paradox, and you just, in order, our mind just wants to control everything and understand everything exactly and put it in a box. And, I used to get mad. Even my kids would go to some kind of Sunday school and they're like, oh no, we just ask questions. We don't tell them how to think about God. And I'm like, what? Why aren't you telling them? Just tell them, But I really appreciate that. And it's developed this deep quality in my children that I love, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But anyway, so I'll go back to that sentence, right? But each revelation has its condition, the appearance of its opposite. Light can only be recognized at the price of knowing darkness. Life needs death. Love needs wrath. I don't know about that, but whatever. I understand what she's saying. Hence, if pure being, the good, beautiful, and true, is to reveal itself, it must do so by evoking and opposing its contrary, as in the Hegelian dialectic. No idea is complete without its negative. In this world, I would say, it's like when you say, there's nothing new under the sun. You have to have that part, under the sun part. If you go back to the absolute, then there is something. There's this purity. You don't need the dark. But it's like, okay, what's coming to my mind, and I won't go into it much. I am a psychologist. I said that in my other video. I don't know if I said it when I restarted this in my day job for the past 20 plus years. I'm just hearing the prodigal son. It's like the prodigal son leaves the father and comes down. And some mystic that I know described it as he's coming down to this earth to have an experience with the earth. And that the other brother, although it can be us, and we're all jealous because this one went off and spent all of the inheritance, half the inheritance, and learned his lesson and saw that, he was empty in this world. He was at the end, he was eating with the pigs, and he couldn't even eat what the pigs were eating, and pigs were unclean animals in that time. But anyway, what I'm talking about is the other one. Some people have said that's like the angelic beings that, and another way, it's another aspect of us. But if you look at it like the angels or whatever, they stay one with God, the ones that stayed with God, not the fallen ones. And so they always have this experience of light. They haven't had the experience like the prodigal son that came down and experienced a life of dissipation, of using all that he had and thinking it was going to fulfill him, and then running out and people walking out of his life. And so he has more of an appreciation. He's like, I know that the servants in my father's house eat better than this, eat better than wanting to have pig's food. I'm going to go back and be a servant and see if my father will take me. I'll tell him I've sinned against him and against heaven. And so the father like runs to him, if you know this story, but I'm sure you do if you're listening to this book. But anyway, so it's basically like, some people say we have to have this experience of coming down of good and evil in order to know, I like what Madeleine L'Engle, she wrote A Wrinkle in Time. She speaks a lot about this, but about how she was kind of theorizing that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was going to be given to Adam and Eve, but they had to mature first more before they could take of that fruit. But I don't know how to explain all of this, so let's just let Evelyn Underhill keep describing it all. Hence, if pure being, the good, beautiful, and true, is to reveal itself, it must do so by evoking and opposing its contrary, as in the Hegelian dialectic. No idea is complete without its negative. Such a revelation by strife, however, is rightly felt by man to be incomplete. Absolute reality, the player, whose sublime music is expressed at the cost of this everlasting friction between bow and lyre, is present. It is true in his music, but he is best known in that light behind, that unity where all these opposites are lifted up into harmony, into a higher synthesis. That's what I was just saying to you, right? And the melody is perceived not as a difficult progress of sound, but as a whole. Look, and that's, if I walked over to that thing right there, it's actually a bow and arrow, but she's talking about a different kind of bow, the bow for the violin. But yeah, when you go up back to the oneness, that's why under the sun there's duality, but back into the oneness, it's the whole. We have then the absolute reality, which the Greeks and everyone after them meant by that seemingly chill abstraction, which they called pure being, that absolute one, unconditioned and undiscoverable, in whom all is resumed, changeless, yet changer of all. This one is the undifferentiated Godhead of Eckhart, Meister Eckhart, the transcendent father of ordinary Christian theology. It is the great contribution of the mystics to humanity's knowledge of the real that they find in this absolute. In defiance of the metaphysicians, a personal object of love, the goal of their quest, the, quote, country of the soul, end quote. But contradicting the nihilism of Eastern contemplatives, they see also a reality in the dynamic side of things, in the seething pot of appearance. They are aware of an eternal becoming, a striving, free, evolving life, not merely as a shadow show, but as an implicit of their cosmos, God's manifestation or showing, in which he is immanent, in which his spirit truly works and strives. It is in this plane of reality that all individual life is immersed. This is the stream which set out from the heart of God and, quote, turns again home, end quote. It turns again home. Like St. Augustine says, our hearts are restless until they find their repose in thee, oh God, It's, at the beginning of his letters, what I was reading. Okay, hold on, I gotta cover up sound because it'll trigger, copyright stuff, whatever. The mystic knows his task to be the attainment of being, union with the one, the return to the Father's heart. For the parable of the prodigal son is to him, see, I was just trusting my intuition. But it came naturally in her writing. Okay, I'll go back. The mystic knows his task is to be the attainment of being, union with the one, the return to the Father's heart. The, quote, return to the Father's heart, quote, for the parable of the prodigal son, is to him the history of the universe. This union is to be attained first by cooperation in that life which bears him up, in which he is immersed. He must become conscious of this, quote, great life of the all, quote, end quote, merge himself in it, and if he would find his way back whence he came, and it says, okay, this union is to be attained first by cooperation in that life, capital L, which bears him up, in which he is immersed. He must become conscious of this, quote, great life of the all, end quote, merge himself in it, if he would find his way back whence he came. Aww, can you take me back where I came from? Can you take me? I won't sing it because it's the Beatles. But anyway, they have that line, can you take me back where I came from? And I made a whole, I don't know if it's still on my YouTube channel, a whole playlist of songs about this longing for home. You know, if we find in ourselves a desire, this is a C.S. Lewis quote that's just coming to me, in which nothing in this world can satisfy, then we find we are made for a different world, you know? I could cry. And I do sing. You can find me. You can look up. About 60 people have watched it so far, or maybe 100, because I looked it up the other day for someone. I give it to people for funerals too. It's a good grieving one, but I sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Away above the chimney tops. With my guitar. That's where you'll find me, you know? Because always we have this longing for home. That's this longing for divine love. And Elliot and I, my friend Elliot Smith and I, had this mixtape. I put together this mixtape after we had this long conversation about Kierkegaard. He had an album called Either Or. Kierkegaard talked about this divine longing as this girl. And so I had all these songs about the girl that got away, you know, Great White Buffalo. They're called torch songs. And they're singing ultimately about this higher longing for union with God as well. But you don't have to take my word for it. Go listen to them and see, you know. Oh, someone was playing that on something yesterday. A street performer was playing. Dark and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she walks, she always passes by, you know. And when she passes by, you go, you know, it's like this longing for pure beauty, for longing for the divine to take notice of us and to love us and to let us into this inner world of love. Anyway, so turns home again. The mystic knows his task is the attainment of being, with union with one. Okay, the great life of the all, merge himself in it, and if he would find his way back whence he came. Vai soli. Hence, there are really two separate acts of divine union, two separate kinds of illumination involved in the mystic way. The dual character of the spiritual consciousness brings a dual responsibility in its train. First, there is the union with life, with the world of becoming, right? Here we are. And parallel with it, the illumination by which the mystic gazes upon a more veritable world. Secondly, there is the union with being, with the one, and that final and ineffable illumination of pure love, which is called the knowledge of God. It is by means of the abnormal development of the third factor, the free creative spirit, the scrap of absolute life, which is the ground of his soul, that the mystic can A, conceive, and B, accomplish these transcendent acts. Right? So she's describing how we can do this. Only being can know being. We behold that which we are, and are that which we behold. But there is a spark in man's soul, says the mystic, which is real, which in fact is, and by its cultivation, we may know reality. I said this the other day. I made a 1-minute reel, and no one was liking it except Howard Jones liked it. He's the author of the song. I'm like, yes, he gets it, because I was saying it's the whole spiritual path in 1 minute, because I was meditating before I went, and I was meditating while my friends were singing their cover band. They sing really good, and you can just get in this flow state, and I'm in the zone, and I just saw all of the spiritual life, because he said, I'll just briefly quote his lyrics. It's like, it may be a lonely path. It may take a little time, a lonely path, an uphill climb. I'll just leave it at that. That's Howard Jones singing, things can only get better when you surrender everything up to the divine love. Let's seek ye first the kingdom of God. all these things shall be added to you. That's the same line. If you see these things mystically when you're in a meditative state, when you said, and if we threw it all away, things can only get better. It doesn't mean throw it all away completely. It just means surrender it all up, seek the divine, seek the higher reality, seek union, seek the oneness, and everything gets better because you're not clinging to the things that you can't hold on to that are elusive anyway. And so I tweeted that, and Howard Jones liked the tweet, and but I don't think people were getting my reel yet. Maybe they will by the time you see this. Maybe not. I'm just called to do it anyway, even if it's only I'm seeing it in the moment, you know. You can go look at it and watch it over and over again. I say watch it over and over again, and it looks like I'm just a person saying, oh, watch my video over and over again. I'm like, no, I'm saying it because we're programmed in our old programming, and to expand yourself into this higher understanding is to open yourself up to the divine, is to change your state of being. And the love in the music and the music itself helps you change your state of being into this higher sense of knowing. Someone's doing a bunch of push-ups right in front of me, and maybe they think that they're on the video. Maybe they're just exercising, but I won't. I'll just appreciate. It's great to stop and do push-ups. Anyway. All right. So that's so funny because I was just talking about how it looks like I'm trying to do that. Maybe that guy's just, you know, every 10 minutes stops to work out in front of a cute girl. Not kidding. No, maybe that's just one of his stops, his rotations. You don't know. That's why you're not meant to judge by the external. I don't think you are at all. Just appreciate that everyone's on their own journey. And I so welcome and I honor that you're here. I didn't want to keep this to myself, and I'm so happy for you that you found it. Like, it just is what it is, so I'm going to leave it at that. Like, I don't have the stand and all this other stuff, and we've got factors involved here, but I want to get through this book, and I want to be in a beautiful place, and it matched the environment. Anyway, so we have about 10 more minutes of this. I always make these about an hour, so you can set aside an hour, or play it on 2 times speed and set aside half an hour or whatever. Secondly, there is this union with being, with the one, and that final ineffable illumination of pure love, which is called the knowledge of God. It is by means of the abnormal development of the third factor, the free creative spirit, the scrap of absolute life, which is the ground of his soul, that the mystic can conceive and accomplish, conceive and be accomplished these transcendent acts. Only being can know being. We behold that which we are, and are that which we behold. But there is a spark in man's soul, says the mystics, which is real, which in fact is. I talk about this in a lot of my videos about your beingness. And by cultivation, we may know reality. That's why I went into the real, talking about the real, because you're cultivating your eyes to see these things, to move into a mystic state wherever you are, you know, if you can, over and over again, as being and becoming, as eternity and time, as transcendence and immanence, reality and appearance, the one and the many. These 2 dominant ideas demands imperious instincts of man's self will reappear, the warp and woof of his completed universe. On the one hand, it is his ineradicable intuition of a remote, unchanging, somewhat, she capitalizes the somewhat, the somewhat calling him. On the other, there is her, I'll just do her longing for and as clear intuition of an intimate, adorable somewhat, companioning her, right? Or him. Man's true, real, his only adequate God must be great enough to embrace the sublime paradox, to take up these apparent negations into a higher synthesis. It's a higher synthesis. So here's the paradox, but it's like I say, oh, look, we look like we're all different people, but we come from the one, you know? But if you're looking right here, it's just like that book about math, when you're looking in the 1D and the 2D, and then you finally look in the 3D, and then the 4D, they have it. It's also like the movie The Matrix shows this. So man's true real, his only adequate God, must be great enough to embrace this sublime paradox, to take up these apparent negations into a higher synthesis. Neither the utter transcendence of extreme absolutism nor the utter immanence of the vitalist will do. Both these, taken alone, are declared by the mystics to be incomplete. They conceive that absolute being, who is the goal of their quest, as manifesting himself in a world of becoming, agonizing in it, at one with it, yet though super agens, also semper agens, semper quietus, maybe always moving, always still. I'm just guessing. The divine spirit, which they know to be immanent in the heart and in the universe. Yeah, always moving, always quiet. And semper fi, it doesn't mean always something. It's always semper fi, I don't know, always life. I know people yell that out. Anyway, the divine spirit, which they know to be immanent in the heart and in the universe, comes forth from and returns to the transcendent one. And this division of persons in unity of substance completes the eternal circle from goodness, through goodness, to goodness, right? Completes the quote, eternal circle from goodness, through goodness, to goodness, right? Absolute being and becoming, the all and the one, are found to be alike inadequate to their definition of this discovered real, the triple star of goodness, truth, and beauty. You know, even if I was just meditating on, this morning I was meditating on 1 Corinthians 13, you know, real love. They're talking about the love that comes from this divine place, from agape. Agape love is patient, it's kind, it's not provoked. You're not provoked. Some translations say not easily provoked, but when you're in the oneness, you're not provoked at all. Because you know this. Oh, look, this guy is reading while he's walking. I love it. I was going to do that, but I can't read and film and walk at the same time. But anyway, I mean, I could try, but I'm not going to. Yeah, if you read that whole passage over again, you know, that they read at weddings and stuff, as coming from connected to, constantly connected to the divine and also grounded on this earth and like across and horizontally, it's like real love is patience, kind, it's not envy. It has nothing to envy because you're in the absolute beingness. You're in the fullness of love, of divine being, of all of that. You're nothing that you're missing, you know? So you wouldn't be jealous. You wouldn't be provoked or easily provoked. Anyway, you would be patient because you don't need anything. So she says, the mystic way, wait, let me see where I was. Man's true, real, his only adequate God must be great enough to embrace the sublime paradox and to take up these apparent negations into a higher synthesis. Neither the other transcendence of extreme absolutism. Okay, I read that. The divine spirit, which they know to be immanent in the heart and in the universe, comes forth from and returns to the transcendent one. And this division of persons in unity of substance completes the eternal circle from goodness, through goodness, to goodness. Absolute being and becoming, the all and the one, are found to be alike adequate to their definition of this discovered real. The triple, that's why I was saying at the end of that, the triple star of goodness, truth, and beauty, at the end of that passage is like these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love, right? You have faith and hope maybe I'm just getting this right now, in this paradox of the dualistic world that we're in, but the greatest of these is love, is this high love that we always return. It says love is never acts unbecomingly, and I loved it because I looked it up. I was like, oh, I have to wear a dress all the time. You know what I mean? That's how I was taught, this narrow version of that. It's like, no, it never acts without elegance. Love, real love, knows nuances. It reminded me of Joseph, you know, who could have divorced Mary, and you don't have to believe any of this stuff. I'm not saying you do, but once he found out she was pregnant, then he got a dream that said, no, she's pregnant by the Holy Spirit, right? But he was going to quietly divorce her when he could have, you know, done all these things back according to the law back at that time. He acted with elegance in the nature of what was true. He was going to divorce her quietly, you know, and not shame her and bring attention to her, and keeps no record of wrongs. Real love is really rad. It's pretty beautiful. I was really moved by it, actually. Anyway, it always acts with elegance. true elegance. Anyway, hold on. Absolute being and becoming, the all and the one are, so in the triple star of goodness, truth, and beauty, speaking always from experience, the most complete experience. Oh, I only have another page left, right, for this chapter. That is possible to man. They describe to us an absolute which overpasses and includes the absolute of philosophy, far transcends that cosmic life which it fills and sustains, and is best defined in terms of transcendent personality, which because of its richness and the poverty of human speech, they have sometimes been driven to define only by negations, at once static and dynamic, above life and in it. Quote, all love, yet all law, right? That's how Joseph acted in that one. Eternal, and Jesus always acted in that. He healed on the Sabbath because the law was about love, and they didn't understand it was about love. He said to them when they said, why are you healing on the Sabbath? He's like, wouldn't you, if your ox fell into a pit on the Sabbath, pull it out? Well, that's action, You're not meant to take action on the Sabbath because you're meant to learn how to rest and detach yourself from always working to get your worth, You're meant to have a break from that, to go back from it. It's all so you can learn how to love more. But anyway, I won't describe all of what the Sabbath means in one sentence, but at once static and dynamic, above life and in it, all love, yet all law, eternal in essence, though working in time. This vision resolves the contraries which tease those who study it from without, and swallows up, whilst it kindles to life, all the partial interpretations of metaphysics and of science. Here then stands the mystic, by the help of two philosophies eked out by the resources of symbolic expression. He has contrived to tell us something of his vision and his claim, confronted by that vision, that sublime reconstruction of eternity, which may surely ask, indeed, are bound to ask, what is the machinery by which this self, akin to the imprisoned and sense-fed self of our daily experience, has contrived to slip its fetters and rise to those levels of spiritual perception on which alone such vision can be possible to man? How has it brought within the field of consciousness those deep intuitions which fringe upon absolute life? How developed powers by which it is enabled to arrive at this superhuman concept of the nature of reality? Psychology will do something, perhaps, to help. Oh, I didn't know the camera was down. I was so into this. Psychology will do something, perhaps, to help us to an answer to this question, and it is her evidence which we must examine next. But its final solution is the secret of the mystics, and they reply to our questioning when we ask them in the direct and uncompromising terms of action, not in the refined and elusive periods of speculative thought. Come with us, they say, this is what the mystics say, to the bewildered and entangled self, craving for finality and peace, and we will show you a way out that shall not only be an issue from your prison, but also a pathway to your home, with a capital H. True, you are immersed, fold upon fold, in the world of becoming. Worse, you are besieged on all sides by the persistent illusions of sense. And you too are a child of the absolute. You bear within you the earnest of your inheritance. At the apex of your spirit, there is a little door so high up that only by hard climbing you can reach it. There the object, with a capital O, of your craving stands and knocks. Thence came those persistent messages, faint echoes from the capital T, truth eternally hammering at your gates, which disturbed the comfortable life of sense, that you were lost in before. Come up then by this pathway to those higher levels of reality, to which, in virtue of the eternal spark in you, you belong. You belong. This is where you belong. Come back to your belonging. Leave your ignoble ease, your clever prattle, your absurd attempts to solve the apparent contradictions of a whole too great for your useful little mind to grasp. Trust your deep instincts. Use your latent powers. Appropriate that divine creative life, which is the very substance of your being. Remake yourself in its interest, if you would know its beauty and its truth. You can only behold that which you are. Only the real can know reality. All right? This is why I make and made every video I have on even my skating videos, my YouTube videos, any videos on Instagram, everywhere, every reel. Everything I do is about this. I didn't know. I was just a mystic in my heart. And I want people to be free so that you're not stuck. It runs so deep in me. I don't want you to be stuck in your senses and your personality, identity. All right, next is chapter 3, mysticism and psychology, right? I've been a psychologist 20 plus years and have clients that I've experienced and done so much of my own inner work. So I hope I can be of help, but I'd like to just read through the book as well, as much as we can. Thanks so much for being here. Share this with like-minded people. Honestly, this is how you grow my channel. I'm not using advertisements. I'm not using anything else. I just couldn't. My intuition is leading me away from that for right now, and I haven't. So it grows organically by you sharing this. So make the effort. I'm making the effort to read this for you. I'm not giving you a guilt trip. I'm inviting you to put in your effort to share this with like-minded people. Much love. I love you.